Karen, don't want to put you on the spot, but just wondering if you had any opening remarks before we jump into our agenda for the day.
Sure.
Mhm.
Good. Normally you say more before you hand it to me.
There's not much on the agenda today besides walking through the comments. I'll do some housekeeping and logistics after your remarks and any opening comments from Chair Geisler.
Okay, great. Yeah, I can get us started.
Great.
I've missed you all. It's so nice to see you again. It's been a minute since we last met. Welcome to the 13th work group meeting of the panel. Glad to see you all here. There's quite a few participants already logged in. Since we last met, the Water Board released your draft panel recommendations report for a 30-day comment period. During that comment period, we at the Water Board held a workshop, April 10th, I believe, where we presented the process to get to the panel report and heard verbal comments. We spent the entire, 3 or 4 hours, I can't recall, listening to comments and presentations from participants. So you also got a link to the recording of that meeting. Hopefully, if you were interested, had a chance to look at that. And we have also compiled the summary of the comments we heard at that workshop into the summary of the comments that the package that you received for today's meeting. We had a comment period that was scheduled to end April 30th, but extended it to May 4th. And all of the comment letters were sent to the panelists last Wednesday. And then the tracking and summary files were sent to you all on Friday. So if you were hunkered down to avoid the wind over the weekend, hopefully you had a minute to take a look at the summary documents. We received almost 90 comments, both written and verbal, and we have compiled all of that, as I mentioned, for your reference. And just as a quick reminder, your charge is to provide us with technical recommendations based on sound science of it and scientific research and science basis. And you'll note that many of the commenters have provided lots of comments around policy direction. And so I encourage you to continue to stay focused on the technical recommendations as we finish up the panel's work here in the next few meetings. I also want to make sure you all are aware that you are not required to respond to every individual comment. And it's up to you all as a group to decide which of the comments and how you would like to address them in your final report. And you'll have today and one more working session to discuss those. And once you have finalized your recommendations, we are hoping to stay on schedule and finalize the document, the final report at a June 5th plenary session. And then Dr. Geisler will present an information item to our board on June 16th. That's, if all goes well, we'll see how these next couple of meetings go, and we may need to adjust that schedule if we can't quite get finished in the next couple of work group meetings, but we'll see how the discussion goes. And I suppose I should stop talking so we can get to the discussion. But just as a final note, you'll note if you've read the comment letters that many of the commenters have expressed a deep appreciation for the process, and especially for the panel's hard work and thoughtful deliberations and thoughtful recommendations that you have compiled in your draft report. And the Water Boards plus up that appreciation. We are deeply grateful for all of the work you have done. You have gone above and beyond to get us to where we are today and get us over the finish line. So really appreciate that. I look forward to today's dialogue and the next working session, and we'll see how it goes. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much, Karen. Before we run through the agenda, let me hand it over to the panel chair, Dr. Daniel Geisler.
Good afternoon, and thanks everybody for joining us today. I will have a few more comments before we get into the details, but I think let's first introduce the panel members.
Wonderful, thanks for that. We are joined by 6 members of the panel today. We'll start with Ali Montazar.
Good afternoon, everyone. Ali Montazar, UCC Irrigation and Water Management Advisor in Southern California. Nice to be here.
Thanks, Ali. Michael Kahn.
Yeah, good afternoon. Michael Kahn. I'm a Irrigation Water Resources Farm Advisor based in Monterey County.
Thanks, Michael. Ruth Dahlquist-Willard.
Hello, I'm Ruth Dahlquist-Willard. I'm the Interim Director of UC SWRCB, the UC Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education Program.
Thanks, Ruth. Richard Smith.
Hi, everybody. Richard Smith, retired vegetable crop farm advisor in Monterey County.
Wonderful. Thanks, Richard. And Hannah Waterhouse.
Hi, Hannah Waterhouse, Assistant Professor and Soil Biogeochemist at University of California, Santa Cruz.
Wonderful. Thank you all for joining. Daniel, you had additional comments, or should we run through the agenda?
We can run through the agenda.
Okay. Well, I mentioned at the outset that it's a pretty straightforward agenda for the day. After introductions here, we're going to jump straight into a discussion of the draft report and the public comments received. I believe staff have just a very, very few slides that they wanted to run through with all of you to kind of, and Karen covered some of this in her opening remarks, but just sort of to orient people to the types of comments received, the overall number of comments, etc. The bulk of the time is set aside specifically for a review of the comments and discussion for the panelists. As we've done for all of these work group meetings, we will have 20 minutes set aside for public comment at the end. As mentioned in the notice posted to the State Water Resources Control Board website, there's certainly a preference, and anybody who submitted a comment request in advance of the meeting will be given sort of the first opportunity to comment. Anybody, if there's time remaining, we certainly would love to entertain additional comments once we run through those individuals first. Once we get to public comment, I'll run through some of the specific instructions, but that's kind of the extent of what we had for you today. It's our goal to get you out of here no later than 6 p.m. So we'll do everything we can to keep the conversation on track. And with that, Daniel, if you had additional comments, that would be great. And then perhaps staff, if you want to run through your few slides, that would be wonderful.
Let's go through the slides first.
Okay, great.
Good afternoon. Okay. Again, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Good afternoon. Sorry for the echo. That was an epic entrance. Thank you for being here. And thank you, Karen. You covered all my slides, basically. As you said, we received 31 verbal comments at the workshop on April 10th, and we received 56 comment letters during the comment period. 8 of these letters were water boards comments, and 41 from the ag industry and community, and 5 from the environmental justice and community members, and 4 of them that wasn't categorized. Next slide. Okay, the verbal comments that we received on April 10th, we already summarized them and provided for the panel members. But the comment letters that we received through the comment periods, we also made a summary of those. But the process, I just explained the process, what we did. We compiled the comments almost verbatim into the Excel file, and we just broke it down to the sections that made sense, and then categorized it based as it was identified by the commenters as a question topics, or as a questions or other topics. That's how we categorized it.
And we provide this Excel file to the expert panel. We also, for each of these sections, also we provided a summary in case that, because some of those sections were very big. But also based on the categories, we grouped the comments, and we used AI, and we run another summary based on the topics, concerns, supports, and recommendations. Next slide. Okay, and this is the timeline Karen mentioned. What I want to add is that we have 2 working group meetings today and May 27th. We assume that maybe you need both of these working group meetings. But if you think that 27th, you don't need 27th, we can cancel it. And if you think that you need even more than another working meeting, if you let us know, we do our best to have another working group meeting between perhaps 27th or 5th, which is very short. Or the best option, the other option that we have is that actually on June 5th, we use part of this meeting. This meeting is from 10 to 4. Then we can use the first hours of that meeting for as a working group meeting, and online you finalize your document online, and then this is your final plenary meeting. That part of it could be used for just editing and finalizing the document. And the idea is that we have on June 16th, the information item, present the report to the board members at the water board. We are here to, we do our best to really accommodate what you need, but we appreciate if you let us know as soon as possible in case that you need any additional meeting or what your plan is. We understand that it's a very intense time on working on this document, but you have already done, and you proved that you do a great job. But if we can help you any way to ease or accommodate your needs, please let us know as soon as you know, as early as you know, and we do our best to provide that additional or whatever you need for you as well. I think that's the last slide that we have.
Great. Thanks, Lale, and perhaps more for the public's consideration, since we do have so many interested folks online today. I'm not sure if this is more of a question for Karen or you, but after assuming that the panel approves the final report on June 5th, the information item happens on June 16th. At that point, the document is handed off to the board, and the board will have its own process and make a determination on what it wishes to do with the recommendations at that point. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Great. So I want to make sure everybody's aware of that. Just because the panel process may be concluding, then the board will ultimately make its determination moving forward, and of course include all of the public input opportunities that any board items do. Okay. So just wanted to provide you with a little bit of background information before we jump into it. That is the extent of the slides that we wanted to provide. But now let me go ahead and turn it back over to Chair Geisler to get us oriented on the discussion for the day.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And thank you, Lale and Karen, for the overview. You have mentioned most of the things I wanted to say today already, so that's great. I'd just like to briefly remind everybody on the Zoom call how we got here. So we had, I believe, 12 panel work group meetings where the entire panel met for 3 to 5 hours. And we had lengthy discussions about the various topics. And of course, we spent way more time in groups of 2 preparing drafts of different sections for the for the report. So the meetings, that was just kind of the tip of the iceberg. And the report, of course, reflects the experience and knowledge of the panel members, but I'd like to highlight that during the entire process, we listened to more than 40 presentations and in total more than 10 hours of public comment. And this input was very valuable, and we incorporated much of that into our report, and it greatly improved the quality of our report. So public comments, the presentations we listened to were very valuable. And I think those who attended some or all of our meetings, I think it's fair to say that we didn't take shortcuts or cut corners. We really had lengthy discussions, and we tried to go into the details where we felt that we had to go or resolve even small details. So despite the lengthy process, of course, we received a lot of comments, nearly 60 letters. The comments and supporting material alone was 800 pages, so a lot to go through since mid last week. And when I looked at the comments, I always asked myself, is this new information or was it already available when we discussed a certain topic? And if it was new, would that have changed the way we would have discussed it? So these were kind of the questions I asked myself to decide, is that something we need to discuss as a panel today? And I identified several passages in the report where I think it would be worth having a discussion today. But before we go into detail, it would be great if other panel members have comments or share their thoughts, general thoughts about the whole process. So please.
I guess I'll go first.
Mhm.
I was impressed through the whole process, how many people are always online. There's so much interest, and it was also impressive, all the letters and comments and the thought that's going behind this. I hope it ends up being useful, in the end, because there's certainly a lot of people hours have gone into this.
Thank you. Ali?
Well, as you mentioned, I think the staff, Water Control Board staff, did just a great job compiling all those summaries. Is a big help because I couldn't have time to read all those, but I had time to review the summaries. I respect the process. I respect the strong stakeholder engagement. I think it means a lot for us. My understanding based on those summaries is the public comments generally support the scientific foundation of the report, but identify opportunity to improve the report. Some of those comments make sense very much to me. I think during our meeting, in some point, our recommendation was a little bit, because we didn't know how deep we should go, or, perhaps it was vague. For example, we said, alternative approaches, but the question from the public is, what do you mean with that? I think that's a fair question, and we need to clarify. But overall, I think this public comments means a lot and very valuable to improve the report.
Yeah, I just would like to echo what everyone has said already. Huge thank you to
super cheap
oh,
headphones.
Sorry. I just want to thank the everyone who contributed their comments. I was also surprised by how many folks attended every meeting. This is a really complex topic, and also really appreciate the staff having compiled all those comments. And I think, from reading through them and the summaries, I think, just one, and the reminder that Karen gave us at the beginning of this is like really kind of sticking to the questions we were charged with and our technical expertise. I think there are things that are beyond, I know for sure, my capacity to answer. But I think a couple things sort of surfaced for me and wanting to, in the comments. One was just there was a couple concerns about confusion in language between question 1 and 2. And so really honing in on that. And then I think this idea of, when we come across new methods or technologies to help improve or reduce nitrate leaching, that there is a more flexible process than convening all of us for however many hours we've spent doing this. I think would be interesting to talk about. And there was one other thing that and then I think, this idea that, and I hope that it's really come through. I think this is something that we've all agreed on, that a one-size-fit-all approach doesn't work. And so things need to be regionally specific, just because of the differences in the agricultural systems across the state. So I'll stop there. And thank you, Daniel, again, for your leadership in this.
Thank you. Richard, Richard.
Well, I want to thank everybody who submitted comments and made comments at the April 10th meeting. And I understand, everybody has very strong feelings and thoughts about the whole issue that we're dealing with. And I really feel like we tried our best to, address the core issue as best we could, given the constraints that we face in this, dealing with this issue, with dealing with an ag industry and dealing with the, clientele and people that in, the communities that live around the ag areas. So the comments, again, I appreciate all the comments. They were really, really amazing. And I can't say that I got through all of them. I was doing pretty good until that tranche of the letters showed up on Friday or Thursday, whatever day it was. And I got through a bunch of those, but not all of them. But I do think that the thing that I'm interested in is some of the comments were really trying to help us be more clear and provide more information in our responses. And so that is of interest to me, I think to everybody, of course. But also I feel like moving forward, we're entering a new era where we're going to have very good scientific information to make any of this work. And there were some comments that were made in that regard, encouraging us to, provide further input into how that could be achieved. So, thank you.
Thank you. Ruth?
Yeah, I'll echo what others have said too. I really appreciate everyone's contribution and just the number of people involved. I remember there was one, I think it was a Friday evening, and it was also Halloween, and there was still lots of people on Zoom, some in costume. So I just think that really speaks to the strength of this public engagement process and the opportunity to make a better program and collect input across a large range of stakeholders. And so I really appreciate also everybody's comments and everybody's presentations. and also Daniel's work as the chair. Thank you for doing that, Daniel. And then I think, the comments as I read through, I also have not done reading all of them, but I was just impressed by the level of detail specific to each system, and to the point of that one size fits all isn't the best approach. I was impressed by how many different systems there were comments on, and the level of depth in what would work best for each of those systems. So I want to thank everybody who provided those. And also thank you to the water board staff and to Sam for making this process run. Much appreciated as well.
Great, thanks a lot. So yeah, you mentioned it. We didn't have that much time to read through the comments, so I went through them and marked some sections in our draft report where I think we should have a discussion. So if you all agree after Sam that we have a look at these sections and discuss them, and then expand it, of course, and include all your comments either later today or prepare them for next time. Sam?
Just very quickly, for any members of the public who are interested in seeing all of the comments, they have been posted to the public FTP site. I will drop that information into the chat for you, but basically visit the Agricultural Expert Panel website, scroll to the bottom of the page, and then enter the information provided under the FTP URL entry at the bottom of the page. So I just wanted to mention that if anybody's interested in seeing the full text of all the comments.
Thank you. Can everybody see the part of the report that's out of executive summary? Oh, Mike?
I just had a question about, do you have a process in mind? Because there's a lot of places in this where I don't know if you want to assign people to work on, but also keeping track of everything and what we're going to work on might be valuable. Maybe you could tell us what you have in mind.
Yes. So we definitely need to see what the things are we need to comment or we need to address. And the things I highlighted it are relatively small things, but I believe they are things that may require a bit more time, and we could actually, if you identify a whole section that needs to be revised, we could work on it in a team of 2, and then just like in previous times, submit our versions to the water board, let's say by Friday, so that they can compile it into one document and send it out by Monday evening or Tuesday noon, so that we all have at least one day before our next meeting to look at it. So I was thinking about a similar process we went through with the drafts of the questions and the final version, the final draft, unless somebody has a better idea on how to go through everything. Mike?
Well, maybe do we want to just sort of set up teams now, and then as you go through, to say which team can take care of this, so we know.
I'm so sorry.
Then somebody can take notes and tell us what our jobs are.
Well, I have the Word document here, so I can take notes directly. But then, yeah, later when we have things that require more time, then let's form teams. The teams of 2, those who are have been most involved with that issue to address it, I would suggest. Lale, do you have a comment?
Hi, Adelia here. I just wanted to flag that Monday's a holiday, and if you're planning on sending the comment document on Friday, if in some instances, if you can possibly do it sooner, if you can't, then we'll try our best to get it to you as soon as we can to compile those for you. Thank you.
Okay, and thanks for reminding us. Yeah, so then Thursday evening will be the time to submit everything. So I would just say let's get started and then see how it goes. Not 100% sure yet how today's meeting is going to go with so many comments, so many issues, but let's get started. So we received a lot of comments, supporting comments about that target limits should be addressed on a local and regional basis. And several people mentioned the language should be stronger. Should is not a strong enough word. We should really say it needs to be addressed on a local regional basis. And it's here in the executive summary. It will come up again, the same issue when we discuss question 1 or 2. Would you agree to that? Can we use stronger language when we talk about the addressing things at the local, regional basis?
I guess if we really wanted to make it strong, we could say must. But I feel like sometimes those words have particular policy consequences, and I'm not sure what that means. Maybe the water board staff could comment on that, or what would be helpful here. Because I agree that making it stronger would make sense.
I agree.
I think need to be is good.
Yeah, me too.
Shall we change it to needs to be addressed?
I agree as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we'll come to that a little bit later. Then here, that's just one point. It's not that clear here, but when we talk about question 2, what we actually mean with objective is the benchmark. And so I thought we just to be consistent, use the word benchmark when we talk about it. You'll see it again. And I think when we get to question 2, it makes more sense than here. It's a little bit more isolated. And then that's just line 409. It's the same line in the PDF file that was sent to everybody. So those who see the PDF file, have the PDF file in front of them, it's the same line. Here we were reminded that we haven't introduced the regions yet, so that we will talk about the regions in the next section. So it makes more sense to write the Central Valley, because readers who are not familiar with the regions would not know yet what that actually means. So that's just a small change to make it clearer. We got quite a few comments about our characterization of California's agriculture. A lot of people like to have more details, especially they like to have their own county mentioned. But I would like to remind everybody, this is not a total overview of the regional characteristics. I think the goal for us was really to show there are regional differences, because we talk a lot about how important it is to address things on a regional basis, and that it's really not an exhaustive list of the agriculture in California, but just to show, yes, we have regional differences, and to set the stage for the recommendation, we need also regional rules or regulations. The 2 things I changed here, if you agree with that, I included Ventura County. It's an important agricultural region in Southern California, although in one letter from Ventura County, it was they questioned whether it's Southern California or Central Coast, but I hope nobody minds when we add it here to Ventura County. And then I also added links to the CDFA agricultural production statistics and to the county crop report. So if people really want to know more, there is all the information on an annual basis. It has been published for many years on, and county level information can be accessed there. So what is your impression? Should we include more detail here, or is that good enough for our purposes? Mike, yes.
I think it's good enough. I know there was one of the comments from Los Angeles County requesting we distinguish them, you know, that they're different regionally than some of the other counties in you know, their urban area. So I don't know if we can do that. It's not obviously not the main ag production area, but still they have to regulate nurseries there.
Mm-hmm. Other suggestions?
I agree with what Mike said. I think it's probably fine the way it is, the way you've added to it.
So shall we keep it this way and upset a few people that their count isn't mentioned directly? Ali?
Yeah, I think one comment we got very strong from the public is recognizing California's regional diversity. I think since we are, the title you have here, I think we should go a little bit further than just mentioning about agriculture or acreage or production. Maybe we should go a little bit on details to ensure we start diversity right from here. For example, why we don't talk about, a little bit just what, make these different. For example, if you look at San Diego, there are small farm-based imperial is a large-scale farming. We don't have it here, but it really goes to the diversity here. Maybe we should include those kind of things, or even a couple of more things which shows those diversity impact the water, the region for regulatory program or whatever we think about this report. I think is good if we can just nail it right here, make sure what differentiate these counties or the state, I don't know, something like that.
Who would be willing to work on that for the next meeting? Have a draft of the additions we need to make, or include it directly in the Word document?
Just one or two?
Can be one, can be two people, yes. Mike? Oh, I thought you raised your hand. Ali, would you be willing?
Oh, sure.
Well, I can work with Ali on it too,
Okay, yeah.
Sure.
Great. So we can expand that a bit. And so then we have a more detailed review of California agriculture. Thank you. Let's see. My next comment. Here we had that was a mistake. Somebody pointed that out. It was not the Central Coast Ag Order that expressed intention to convene a second expert panel, but it was the State Water Board in their review. So I corrected that. Our information was wrong here, or I missed that. So that's what we discussed before. Target limit needs to be addressed on a local basis. So that's the same sentence we have in the summary. And then there was also some concern. A lot of people supported our idea of the iterative approach, but they were a bit worried probably because in question 1, in our response to question 1, we mentioned the operational benchmark, and the details of how to get there are dealt with in question 2. So, some people were worried that the water board would go directly regulate or to the operational benchmark and set limits at that level. So I was wondering, should we add a sentence similar to this one, that the benchmarks may be reached as the result of the iterative process described in the response to question 2, so that we don't support going directly there. It would be the end goal. We'll make that a little bit clearer.
I agree with that, Daniel, because I also saw that too. That came up several times. So, do you think that addresses it enough? Just
I don't know. Can we add or can we do more? I think we all agree that the iterative process is what we recommend. So if we can make that even clearer, that would be fine.
Yeah.
I agree. I think could we say the panel recommends using the iterative process to reach the benchmarks or something like that? The iterative process is an important method of getting to the benchmarks, or something to describe that it's a process.
Is that better?
It's stronger. I think that's good. It's clear.
I'd agree.
Yeah,
I
that's good.
want to check that things are consistent between the 2 questions. And there might be other places you can strengthen it.
Yeah. So yeah, if we come across another section, or if you identify something until next time, we can come back to that. Okay, then that's what I already mentioned in the summary. It's really, we are talking about the benchmark here. So I replaced objective by benchmark to make it clearer. Okay, then I'm sure there are things we can discuss here, but the next thing I mentioned is here. That's response to question 3 or 4. There was one concern that coalitions use other software, so recommending or even suggesting Excel may force them to use other or Excel instead of the software they are already using. So I don't think we don't need to mention Excel. I think it's important to present the the information in a table and not, let's say, with bullet points or in a text document. But as long as it's a table, then different tables can be converted into different formats. So in my opinion, that would be good enough, and we don't need to mention Microsoft Excel. Is that okay with you?
So just to clarify, Daniel, it would read that the reported data, the panel recommends that the following additional electronic summary table be prepared by region, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's electronic and it's a table. And there were some comments about why we shouldn't mention row and columns, but that's really the characteristic of a table. So I think we should keep that here.
I saw that comment, Daniel, and I think they suggested just changing the IE to EG, like example. I mean, I don't know if you want to suggest that it should be something that you can search with a database or a spreadsheet. But that's all they asked, that it's not required that it's Excel, but it's some sort of, it could be CSV file that you can download and then analyze.
Yeah.
Because if it was just a PDF and it was hard to, for the public to just go through the data, that would be cumbersome.
So would you prefer to keep Excel here and just write EG as an example?
Yeah, or you could do Excel or CSV.
I think most software can produce a CSV, and then most software can take in a CSV. So I think that would be the.
Oh, sorry. Down. Okay. MS Excel compatible.
I'd like Hannah's suggestion of a CSV because you're not singling out Microsoft.
So just, for example, CSV file.
Yeah.
Only use. Okay, I see. Sorry, I misunderstood. For example, CSV file. Okay. Then we got quite a bit of a few comments about the additional data we suggest that should be included, especially the water budget information, but also the percentiles. First of all, one comment was that this information is not available to growers, but I think our idea was that it would need to be submitted by the coalitions and not by the growers. But there were also some concerns that smaller coalitions may not have the means to provide all this data for each crop or each cropping system. And I was wondering, were we focused a bit too much on the Central Valley and the Central Coast and forgot that there are smaller regions? Or do you think, is it still reasonable to request this information? And also if the water budget information, that requires some sim stations in the region. Otherwise, it will be more challenging to get that information, or at least accurate information. So I'm wondering, what do you think? Is that a reasonable request, or have we gone a little bit overboard here? What we would like to see, what we would like the coalitions to provide?
So Daniel, can we put something here to make a difference between the region, at least to make sure, for example, if you ask average recharge volume for Imperial, they don't give you a number there. But I think if you add somewhere based on the region, perhaps, yes, some region they have, some region they don't. But I don't know how you want to, do we have somewhere by region?
So we say be prepared by region for each crop or cropping system. I think that's probably the
Should be
the
fine.
main sticking point.
Should be fine if that's the case.
Daniel, was it by region? That wasn't the only concern, that in my understanding of what I read.
No, just the entire amount of data requested.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that is, I mean, yourself, when you get a stack of forms you have to fill out, none of us like it. So I guess the question is, what is absolutely necessary to help characterize, this nitrogen loss potential? And I don't know, I haven't really studied this list here, but, maybe we should dwell on it, or have a couple of people work on it, and just review it, make sure it's not over the top.
Yes. Thomas worked mainly on this, so he will probably be a good person to work on it. Somebody else would like to join him. Otherwise, I can reach out to Thomas.
I could do that.
Hannah? Okay, great.
Great.
My impression is, Thomas was thinking about modeling here, because I don't know how a grower would have runoff volume. And
Yeah. It's not modeling, because he mentioned specifically below additional data for regions that model.
yeah,
So the top, all of this is, but the idea would be to request all of this from every region, independent whether they use models or not.
And it's for each crop, right?
At the moment it says so, which lists for each crop or cropping system the following variables. Yes.
It's difficult.
So yeah, definitely. I had the impression too when I read the comments and then back to this, we probably went a little bit overboard here.
Yep.
It's definitely, it would be great information to have, but to request it on a general basis from everybody seems a bit too ambitious a goal. Hannah?
Yeah, I think if I'm remembering correctly, this kind of came out of looking at some of the spreadsheets that we had access to, and some of the comments we heard about public interest in seeing that data. And so I think it was to like homogenize that a bit more and make it a little more clear. And with that said, I think we were pretty heavily region 3 and 5 focused. And things like, measuring recharge volume and runoff is an ET. I mean, there's some, ET values can really be pretty uncertain. And so I think having a second look at this, I think, that 1, 2, 3, third bullet and the first bullet are really important. Yeah.
But you can look at, Hannah, you can look at well, you have to scroll down a little bit there, Daniel, but like at the bottom, the changes in soil organic matter, nitrogen loss from you know, those kinds volatilization and denitrification, that is not readily available to a grower.
No.
So there's some simple things that we could easily cull from this list, I think.
Yeah, that's why I think that first black bullet point and the third one are most important, like the
Acres and the distribution.
yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe those, yeah.
And the fourth bullet point, that would only be for people who, or for regions that use a model. Although I'm not sure whether SWOT could actually provide all the data. For example, changes in organic matter. I'm not sure if it's detailed enough, but so yeah, I think we should have another look at it and discuss whether it's really needed. Oh, Ruth? Oh.
I agree. I would actually suggest taking out most of the bullet points about water, because those aren't being reported by growers. And so to report that to the public, the Water Quality Coalition or third party is going to have to do a fair bit of extra work to get all that data, particularly recharge and irrigation volume. I think that is not always available. Like it's not always being reported. I think ET you could get from groundwater sustainability agencies who are measuring that with satellite use, but now that's an interagency task. So it seems like this isn't the data that's being reported through the irrigated lands regulatory program by growers. So maybe the focus should be the third bullet point, as Hannah mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mike?
Well, I think a simple way to handle this is you shouldn't summarize things that growers aren't already supposed to, provide as information. And so it's actually not true in the Central Coast region. Growers do give the irrigation volume, they do estimate ET, and that might come to the Central Valley. I think that is useful to know, but it's got to be information growers are already required to report. We just want a summary of what they reported, the inputs that they gave. We'd like a summary of the outputs, right? Or a summary of some analysis of everything that was put in. And so I think that could be region by region specific. And I don't know if we have to, cut out everything, but you might have a more overarching statement that, the whole purpose is to provide a summary of whatever growers were required to provide.
Thanks. Ali?
Well, I think what makes this statement difficult is the purpose of this data. It says to meet public interest in understanding and auditing the report data. I think when we go with the auditing and we want those numbers, very rough numbers, I think it makes everything difficult. If the purpose is auditing.
Well, I think it is useful to know on a regional scale, what's the average nitrogen applied, because if you look at all the sales of nitrogen fertilizer and if everyone's reporting they're not there's the A-R is really small, but the sales show something much higher, that is how you use it for auditing. So I think it's reasonable to have for the public to have access to some sort of summary of this data.
Yeah. So Hannah, could you reach out to Thomas and discuss with him what we discussed today and see how we could probably shorten that list a bit or focus on things that can be reported easily, that are not a huge burden. And I mean, and always we always have to keep in mind the quality needs to be there. If there's a lot of data and it's rough estimates because there's no weather station, it's not that useful. So we should really focus on requesting data that can be reported accurately and is not just an estimate.
Yeah.
Okay, Ruth?
One last comment on, it says below, if you could scroll down a little bit, that it's all to be reported by crop or cropping system. And so I wonder, for diversified farms, that could be a cropping system. For some very small acreage crops, I wonder if those could be like in a miscellaneous crop category or something to avoid splitting out like many small acreage crops. Or for example, with nursery crops, just wonder if there's a way to simplify that, or maybe you could discuss that in the small group.
Mm-hmm. Can you add that to your list, Hannah? You discuss with Thomas. Thank you.
Thanks, Hannah.
Okay, so that's quite a few people commented on this. So that was a big concern for a number of people. And here, that's where we suggest that the reported fertilizer use could be compared to statewide fertilizer sales. I think there was a lot of concern, but especially about the county-based estimates. So I think statewide, that may be accurate enough, but a lot of people mentioned that fertilizers are sold in one county and then used in another county. So I was wondering, does this sentence make sense, or shall we just delete it and focus on statewide fertilizer sales? Ruth?
I very much agree with deleting it. I actually had a conversation with FREP about this and just have a sense that there's a lot of complexity where you really can't match up county nitrogen application with county fertilizer sales, both because cross-county movement, also out-of-state movement, probably like the Port of Stockton. And then also you might buy more fertilizer this year than you're going to use this year. You might save it for next year. It's really, I think it's not a clean correspondence there. And I think it probably doesn't even make sense to include.
Mm-hmm. Richard?
I totally agree with Ruth. You look at our area here in the Central Coast, there's basically 4 counties that are serviced by companies that are in Salinas or in Hollister or Watsonville, and the fertilizer is going many different directions. I think might be an exercise in futility requiring something like this.
Mm-hmm. So does everybody agree we just delete this sentence?
I agree.
Mm-hmm. And then the first part, in my opinion, we can keep it. It's also, we don't say it should be done. We just say a statewide comparison may provide a large scale verification. Is that okay to keep, Ruth?
Could we change large scale verification to something like additional insight? Just because I'm not sure it's going to match up in a way that would allow verification. Because all those concerns on the county level add up to the same concern on the statewide level. Because it's not just movement from one county to another within the state. It could also be movement out of the state. It could also be purchased this year but not applied this year. So maybe just softening that language a bit to be less making it sound like it's going to really match up.
Mm-hmm. Provide additional insight into reported application data. Would that be a good solution?
I guess so, but if growers are successful in, reducing fertilizer use, don't you think over 10 years you might see, at least on a per acre basis, less N applied? So it may show trends.
Yes. I think that's probably the best way to use it, to show the trends over time, or rolling 3-year averages or something like that.
I think
Could we say,
Sorry,
go ahead,
Ru?
sorry. Oh, could we put that word in there? Additional insight into trends in, maybe we take out ILRP reported because we're not trying to directly compare it, but trends in fertilizer application, or something like that, in fertilizer use, because we're really looking at trends in overall use, not trying to correlate it with ILRP reported data.
Would be trends in nitrogen fertilizer use.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I like that because then that shows that we can see if there's a trend, but we're not trying to match it up exactly to county level or basin level or coalition level reporting or even statewide reporting. Although I agree, it should eventually show some pattern.
Yes, I agree. Okay, thank you. And as always, if you have other ideas before next meetings, you can always, or we can always come back to that. And then here we are question 6. We wrote having target limits for applied with fertilizer and A or A minus R. That was a little bit confusing for some people. So what we want to say is either or having fertilizer data plus A or A minus R. So is it clear when we say having target limits for a fertilizer and either A or A minus R? Richard?
Well, I think on this one, the confusion is we're only interested in the A data if there's no R data, you know,
Yes.
for a commodity. And so that's where I think we knew what we meant when we wrote this, but we didn't maybe say it just the right way to emphasize that point. So maybe we need to say, A fertilizer for A minus R, and then, put the clause in there if R is not available. A's, it's not a perfect metric by any means, but it gives you some information,
We definitely mentioned that in a previous question, but do you think we should include it here again to make that point?
Well, it sounds like people were having trouble with it, so probably.
I'm not quite sure I understand the issue. I mean, I thought this was about setting limits on a fertilizer, not just A. And since we said, well, we're already setting limits on A minus R or A if there's, no R around, we don't need a fertilizer to have a limit. So
Yes,
that intent here.
That was our intention, yes.
Yeah. Maybe you don't need the A.
Yeah.
You just say.
Or shall we, in this question 6, we mention it for the first time here for A minus R or A metrics. Shall we add in parentheses if data for R is not available? Would that clarify why we mention both?
That would help.
I wonder when we talk about targets and limits, have we discussed previously here using only A to set those? Because I think we mostly have discussed using, when R is not available, using A alone as a method to identify outliers versus as a method to actually set limits on fertilizer applied. Just wonder what
Yes.
we already said about that before, if it's mentioned there as A is called out separately. Because it's basically A would be very similar to a fertilizer in that setting.
I'm trying to find it. I think it was question 4 where we discussed it. The 1 second.
There's number 9.
Yes. So that's where we discuss, or that's where that comes from. We
Right.
mentioned here question 4 or earlier, but not in the same question, that A maybe may work too if R is not available. So that's where from then on, I think in some situations we always list A over R or A, just to take that into consideration.
And then number 10 there is where we describe the outlier using A to identify the highest discharges for specific production systems. So I wonder if we go back to that other section with A for A and A minus R.
So yes, so that's, we discussed that before. Now the question is, do we need to repeat it and it's clearer why we mention both of it? I think that's probably the main thing, to clarify it for the reader, or what would be the best way.
I still wonder if we even need the A, because would anyone make a target just based on A? You think for the entire
That's
region?
what I think too.
I think you'd almost drop the A and just say it would be clearer. I mean, there's special cases when R is not available, such as with the nurseries. And so they might just be A.
Shall we just focus on A minus R, Richard?
Well, I don't think it hurts. You put that in parentheses. It helps clarify it. I don't see a problem with it. Because you do have whole industries that are gonna, R is kind of what you got. I mean, A is what you got. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I agree with Richard. I think the clarification in the parentheses and the either makes sense.
I agree too. Yes.
Okay, then let's keep it this way, unless we come up with a better solution next time. Here, this is about discounts for, or with composts and organic amendments, whether to count the total amount of nitrogen or only the plant available nitrogen. My impression when reading the East San Joaquin Valley order is that only the plant available nitrogen needs to be reported when it comes to organic amendments. Karen Mogus has a different interpretation, and no, the total amount applied with organic amendments needs to be reported. So I changed the sentence here, or said there may be different interpretations. It's really for the main purpose of this is to highlight the differences in the two regions. Region 3 it's really clear only the plant available nitrogen in organic amendments needs to be counted or included in A, and Region 3 makes a recommendation on how to calculate that, and that's definitely not done in the Central Valley. The question that's a little bit unclear is what growers need to report or not what they need to include in A. Ruth?
I mean, just agronomically, what makes sense is to report the plant available nitrogen, because that's what's going to feed into management decisions and how much nitrogen is available to the plant within a cropping season. And that's what the grower is going to use to decide how much other nitrogen to apply that's not part of that organic amendment. So I'm curious what the value of reporting total N if it's not all available. Or that it's not all going to become available or mineralized during the growing season, I guess. If it's going to be mineralized, then it would be good to calculate that. But which that's available, those methods for how to calculate that. But what would be the value of reporting total nitrogen if it wasn't all available? That seems to overestimate A to me.
Definitely, and especially with yard waste composts, it would lead to no grower using them anymore because
That's right.
Use. But yeah, agronomically, I totally agree. The main question is here what the order says, and I don't know if we have to resolve that issue as a panel or just leave it the way it is. Richard?
Maybe somebody remembers this detail, but I remember hearing in one of our meetings that in Region 5, the growers decide how much nitrogen they're going to report that comes from the compost or comes from some organic amendment. Whereas in Region 3, we have it kind of, based on, some of the scientific papers, which you might know about, Daniel, that are out there. That's how it's calculated, But in Region 5, the growers decide how much they're going to say came from the compost. Am I wrong about that? I thought I heard that from.
That's my understanding too, and besides, that's a citation from the Ag Order. The applied organic soil amendments include composted manure and should be reported as the amount of N available to the plant during the growing period in pounds per acre. I think the comment Karen made that this is just for planning purposes, but then when it comes to calculating A, the entire nitrogen in that compost needs to be included. And so it was the first time that, or I was kind of surprised by that comment, but yeah, I tried to mention that there it's not quite clear to me what actually counts and what needs to be reported, whether both need to be reported or not. Mike?
In that context, is the grower going to provide information about the carbon nitrogen ratios or any characteristics of those organic materials? Because I'm not sure how modeling could just take the total amount and figure out what is plant available. So
At the moment,
maybe we need more clarification.
At the moment, there's no, growers do not need to report the CN ratio or even what type of organic amendments.
It seems like there needs to be some consistency that uses, based on our scientific understanding or something like that. And what's being done on the Central Coast is a step in that direction. It seems like, as technical panel, this is something, we can recommend.
Yeah, definitely agree. Ruth?
I agree with that. And my experience of the Central Valley Coalition reporting is that it's up to the grower to do those calculations and then add it into the total nitrogen applied on the reporting forms. So it is a lot of extra work on the growers to figure that out. And I wonder if there's a way that that could be more feasible in the reporting process. So I guess for this section, maybe that's a different point though. I think for this section, I still wonder, if Karen, would you be able to clarify like what's the rationale for reporting total nitrogen in the organic amendments if it's not all available to the plant?
I can't at the moment myself. I was relying on my tech. Oh, Eric Warren has just raised his hand. He will help
Thanks.
me. He will save me from myself.
Eric?
Hi, am I coming through okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, just to clarify on that. So the guidance that we've provided growers is on their reporting to capture the plant available nitrogen applied. What we're really concerned with when talking about total applied is that remainder not essentially falling off the ledger, in terms of future years. So ideally, they should be accounting for, not just season 1, but what may become available in season 2 and beyond. But definitely agree with the sentiment that we could use some better guidance for growers and maybe some easier tools on how they may go about calculating that consistently.
It is complicated because how many years out are you going to list the potential not mineralized yet compost? So I appreciate that, I think it's a complex thing to have to figure out for reporting.
So, oh. Just a second. I wanted to show the original. So Eric, now that we have you here, when you read that, is it incorrect what we write here?
I'll have to apologize. I'm actually on the road right now, but we'll be able to take a look. Maybe during the future comment portion towards the end, I can hop back on and let you know if I do see issues. But really, yes, the sentiment of total A is really we understand the agronomic piece, but want to be also truthful from the total mass balance perspective because it influences, our assessment of ultimately what's going down into groundwater.
Okay, so that's probably something we need to come back to next time or between now and next time. Hannah, Richard, and Mike, you all raised your hand.
Yeah, I wonder, as effective precipitation or irrigation is thought about, maybe this is kind of falls into that bucket where we have, a grower could report total nitrogen applied and then have a separate column that I think should be calculated by the coalitions. I think the Central Coast has it right there, to then calculate sort of the plant available over that current season that would then count toward the applied, the A component. So it could be reported like total N that's in that organic amendment, but like, as you said, that would be a huge amount, and would definitely penalize organic growers, I think, because not all of that nitrogen is available. And so I think, having a column for, okay, if you want total N, but then what actually would count toward applied would be the plant available form. Would be Yeah.
I think for us at the moment in this section, it's just we don't want to describe the East San Joaquin Valley incorrectly. I think that's the whole point. I think in the document we make it clear we fully support only accounting for the plant available nitrogen. So here it's really, we don't want to characterize it in an incorrect way. Richard?
Yeah, I think in other parts of the of what we've written, we kind of addressed this issue, but maybe we haven't made it clear enough, and we'll have to take a look at that. Where we talked about, this residual amount of nitrogen that becomes available down the line over maybe a period of years, starts showing up as residual nitrate. And that's why we talked about recommending the soil nitrate test to help guide growers to take advantage of this residual nitrogen that builds up. Because let's say the nitrogen that's in compost, you get a certain amount that's readily available, but the rest of it starts acting, releasing slowly and acting like organic matter. And that's why, at least with our current state of knowledge, and Hannah's going to solve all these questions during her career, of course, but we want to understand, how this becomes available. But currently, the nitrate quick test is probably the best that we have for being able to do that. And then I guess just one final comment is, as an expert panel, we should take, if this isn't clear, we should, like Mike suggested, in Region 3, they used your data to help growers understand how much is going to become available. And maybe we recommend that to Region 5 if they are not already doing that.
Yeah, I think that's a good suggestion. We should go through this section and see, is our recommendation to use that strong enough, or do we need to be more explicit, recommending only plant available N? Richard, so
you want me to work on that? Is that where you're headed?
Yeah, I can help you, or if somebody else wants to look at it.
Actually, I'd like Hannah to help me because she's
okay. No, Hannah is already with Thomas.
That's okay. I think we're just deleting Thomas and I, so I can work with Richard.
Then shall I reach out to Thomas?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Daniel, I was thinking, Eric made a point about having things on the ledger, over the long term, but at a certain point, it sort of just becomes organic matter of the soil, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so would it be wise to suggest that once in a while growers evaluate what their soil organic matter level is? I don't know, you or Hannah, I have opinion on that. I mean, if it's not going up over time, would that suggest that it's all mineralizing in the end?
It takes a long time to really measure a difference. And I think, as Richard suggested, and we write here in the document, probably a nitrate test is the best way to deal with that. And that we mentioned that in several sections of the report, that a nitrate test can really help. And I think that would also help determine how much is mineralized. And sure, over a period of 5 or 10 years, soil organic matter can increase, but it would still be a relatively rough estimate of how much it changes over time. And especially, let's say if the commercial lab changes their method, or you send it to different labs, you may get a surprising result.
So I would contend that, because you're at the flat part of the curve, it'd be pretty hard to pick up any more mineralization, from a lot of these amendments, because it'd be like a few parts per million every month, you know.
Yeah. So yeah, Ruth, you have a comment, but otherwise I would suggest if Hannah and Richard could have a look at it and really make it clear that we recommend, first of all, using only the plant available N, and second, make sure rely on residual nitrate test. Ruth, sorry.
Well, I just wonder, because this, since this has come up, that there could be more guidance for farmers and maybe more reporting tools to help estimate plant available nitrogen in organic amendments. Where is the right place in the report to recommend something like that? Or does it go in this section, or we mention it somewhere else? Just because I do think, especially for the San Joaquin Valley, it could be built out a little more, that if you're using compost or cover crops or other organic amendments, maybe a more streamlined way of reporting that. Or maybe that's just up to the regional water quality coalition also. But just the methods are so different between the Central Coast with all the credits, where it's explicitly calculated and accounted for, versus in the San Joaquin Valley, it's kind of up to the grower to do the calculations and add it all up. Maybe that's another line on the reporting form, for example, where organic amendments are reported separately and there's some support to calculate them. But I'm not sure if that's within our purview or where that should go in the report.
Richard and Hannah, could you take that into consideration when you look at this section?
Yeah, can you also just remind us which question we're on?
Yeah, where are we?
Yes.
7. Okay.
Oh,
7A.
No, we worked on this before. Great.
Yeah,
okay.
We love this.
Yes, that's your question, definitely. So I think there are two things. First of all, we want to make sure what we mention about the San Joaquin Valley order is correct, and that we don't misrepresent what is written in the order. But then the second point, to make it clear that using only the plant available, and we don't just recommend doing that on the Central Coast, but in other regions as well. I think make that point clear, and I think we all agree that it is the right way, but I'm not sure whether we actually mention that or we just say, yeah, we support what the Region 3 did. But mention that it could or should be expanded to other regions. I think that would be an important addition.
And just building off of this really quick, Daniel, I'm thinking about the science. We know that not all the nitrogen applied in organic amendments is immediately plant available. Like that is for sure, no debate. But I wonder, we don't have really good tools as of yet to determine, there's the nitrate quick test, but even in systems where, you might measure low nitrate, but they're performing perfectly well. I can think of a couple farmers in that who, so these tests that we have aren't great for organic systems. Could that be something we talk about in the future research?
Yes, I think that could be added there if we I can't remember the details, but if it's not there, if you think that could be added to make a stronger point, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Great, thank you.
One last thing.
Sorry.
Occurred to me. I mean, if a grower is showing that, they're using organic amendments and their soil nitrates are consistently low, they are not much of a risk for nitrate leaching, right? And maybe the test could be used to sort of give evidence that those applications are not, hazardous to the groundwater.
I mean, yes. I was thinking it also, and Michael, in the opposite of like, you test for low nitrate and that would lead to the conclusion or the logic of like, I need to apply more labile nitrogen. But maybe you actually don't, and it's just you're having such quick turnover and then plant interception of that inorganic nitrate, that they're fine. The plants are fine. They're not, and also you're not leaching. That's just been my experience every time I take a class out and measure with the nitrate rapid tests in a lot of organic systems. It's like, there's no nitrate there.
Ruth?
I want to just mention that we received a number of comments where in the question on small farms, question 8, that we proposed a reduced risk category. And there were several comments that suggested maybe not limiting it to small farms, but any farm that has practices that really reduce the risk of nitrate leaching, as was just described. High organic amendments, nitrogen isn't being released quickly. So maybe when we get to that question, we could come back to that idea, but I just hear it being discussed here, so I thought I would mention it.
That's a good point. Remind me if I scroll too fast.
Well, sure.
Thanks. Okay, so then I don't have anything here. We got support for here. This is the point about nitrate in the irrigation water, and I think there's general support that only the volume equal to ET should be included to calculate nitrate in the irrigation water. Basically we describe what Ag Order 4 says. We never say we support this approach, but I believe based on our discussion, we do support this approach. So I was wondering, should we make that clear here and not just leave it with a description of what Ag Order 4 was doing without saying, yes, that's what we support. So my suggestion would be to add these few words to 25.
I agree.
Anna too. Thank you.
Yeah, same.
Richard. Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
So that was one thing. Here we got several comments that said, well, if the maximum is 80 acres for small-scale diversified farms in some regions, that would be most of the farms there. So I was wondering, is that definition too generous, or do we stick with the 80 acres? So that was one comment we got about this section, and then one suggestion, it may be better to define small-scale diversified farms for specific regions and not just for the entire state. So these were two comments that came up multiple times. Ruth, what is your impression here? Should we make any changes here?
So I agree with many of the comments about this definition, and it's actually very difficult to fully define small farms for California. CDFA right now is working on a process to come up with a statewide definition of small farms. That is probably going to take about another, I don't know, maybe up to a year. If that were available, we could cite it. That definition is also probably going to be one of those things where it's like meets 3 out of 5 or meets 7 out of 10 criteria. So I think for this, it does make sense to allow more regional definitions. But I also think to the point of, if in some areas this would be all small farms, I think even if it's all small farms, they still need meaningful reporting that makes sense for them. So the argument is not that there's very few small farms and so it doesn't matter to water quality. The argument is that the current one-size-fits-all reporting structure doesn't actually work for small farms. So if you have all small farms in your area, like Santa Cruz or San Diego or places where there's a lot of small farms, I think it's still important to have meaningful reporting that makes sense for the operation and doesn't create false precision or, overly burdensome requirements that don't match the operation. So the goal isn't just to exempt small farms because they're not affecting water quality. It's also to make the reporting match the management, and so that the reporting's accurate. We're not going to have improvements in water quality unless reporting is accurate and matches the operation. So that's what I would say in terms of the comments that maybe many farms in a region would be small farms. I think that region still needs to then define like what's meaningful for those farming operations and what's going to actually result in improvements to water quality versus, even if that is all small farms, they still need that meaningful and accurate reporting structure. It's going to be hard to make a perfect definition. I think it's okay to make it less than 80 acres. This is just citing the DWR definition, which is just eligibility criteria. It's not really a definition. So the other ways to do it could be like a certain percentile of farm sizes in an area. But also specifically because it's small scale diversified farms, there is sort of a upper limit on how you can be profitable with many, many crops on a certain acreage. So you don't usually see farms that are like 500 acres that have a lot of different crops selling to like a direct marketing structure. So there's some correlation there between farm size and diversification. I would be okay with making it less than 80 acres, but I think, or maybe we could say a range. We could say something like, up to 80 acres, and that could be defined further by the region or something like that. That's the same thing as saying a maximum of 80 acres, but that you could take that maximum and adjust it to the region, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Can you help me write this for max or?
Or less or fewer acres, as defined by the region or something like that.
Daniel, what if you just change that sentence, however, to the definition for small scale diversified farms must be defined in each region?
You could also make it the first sentence.
Mhm.
I'd be a little careful about leaving it completely up to the region. I think maybe with some guidelines, and then within those guidelines, the region could determine.
So what would be the Richard?
I was just looking at some comments that some people made. I'll just read it. It says, for small and diversified operations, use a reduced risk category based on practices, not size. What do you think of that, Ruth?
Well, that's what I was saying before, that that would be you could have a reduced risk category that was not based on size, but then it's not under the small diversified farms section. It would be maybe in question 9 or something like that if we wanted to define that as a general reduced risk category.
We have that, I think, or in another place we list some criteria.
Right. This is specifically answering question 8, which calls out small farms.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this section, it makes sense to focus on small farms, but we could also talk about reduced risk practices in question 9, or we could expand that section.
So yeah, I think we can have a look at question 9 for this section here. How shall we? So can we come up with a solution, or would that be something, Ruth, you could think about for next time? And then if you think it's needed, change the definition here?
I'd like to work on it and read through all the comments again, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
If anyone else wants to join, they'd be welcome.
Gudu would still be available for a team of 2.
Sure.
She's not on the
Sure.
call, but so maybe volunteer
That's fine.
her. Mhm.
Yeah, happy to work with Godo on that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. So I leave it the way it is, but then just make any changes you like. So I was thinking of sending this document with all the additions and corrections we make today to the water board team, and they can forward it to all of you, and then you can start working on this in this document directly. So let's see what else. Here we that's it. That's the reduced risk small farms the criteria. And there was one comment I liked, is that there may be a situation where not just the number of criteria is relevant, but they could also be scored, or some of them could score higher, and the definition then would include farms that meet a certain score and not just the number of criteria, because some criteria may be more important than other. So what do you think about this addition here? Is that something
I like
you
that,
could
and I think,
support?
oh, go ahead.
Ruth, is it something you could support?
I think it's interesting. And I think probably regionally it might be different. So maybe we could add something here. I'm also happy to work on this more if needed.
Mm-hmm.
Because I noted those comments as well, and I think it's an interesting idea. Do we have anything that says a reduced risk category would be regionally determined, or are we recommending kind of a statewide reduced risk category? So I would see maybe different regions might want to weight things differently based on specific risks in their area.
I don't think we mentioned that, so that could be something to add here, if you could work on this as well, together with the other question. Richard?
I was just curious, just, how would you define reduced risk? We kind of have a sense of what that looks like, but I'm not sure. I don't know. Just what are your thoughts on that, Ruth?
Well, I would say it's reduced risk of nitrate leaching. So anything that either results in lower application or lower mineralization, or removing nitrogen, like in planting winter cover crops. So anything that's keeping nitrogen out of the zone where it would leach into groundwater, I would say is lower risk.
Yeah, those all sound good. Yeah.
In the point above, so 0.5 here, we list some of these factors that are associated with lower risk. So we give examples here. And then in 0.6, we say the category of reduced risk would be defined by meeting a number of these criteria. And actually, we meant criteria above. So there would be a number of these 10 criteria.
And one of the comments that was made also mentioned the low rainfall in this section not being a management practice, which I think is true, but it also is associated with lower risk of leaching. So I wonder if maybe that could be moved into a short description of how regional differences might be accommodated, or you might customize this list and weight it differently based on the region you're in. But I do want to make sure it's in there because I do think, like, I think this was mentioned in some of the comments from the San Diego region, is that it is associated with a reduced risk, even though it's not a management practice.
Yeah, that could definitely be added, but of course it's only reduced risk if it's not made up by irrigation or
Right.
low rainfall on its
Right.
own. If the crops are over irrigated, then it would no longer be low risk. But yeah, definitely, if it's rain fed, then
Right.
that would be a criteria. Yes, I agree.
You're not going to get additional bleaching from rainfall. So,
yes, at least,
yeah.
yes. Or if you frame it like that, rain during the off season or something like that. Yes,
Right,
definitely, I agree. Mike?
Yeah, speaking of irrigation, is it on the list? The like efficient, high irrigation efficiency? Yeah, I see that. Number
Is
5.
it? Oh, yes.
Yeah. And then do you have like a category that says anything else that they come up with? This is sort of suggestion technically, but there may be things we didn't think about.
Yes, so should we, or would that also be something to add, Ruth, to mention that depending on the region, there may be other factors that could be included?
I think that would be great. And that goes back to the point of not having to reconvene the panel every 10 years to add another concept or new technology or new method.
Yes, so frame it in a way that these 10 points are examples, but it's not an exhaustive list of practices. There can be more.
Okay, I can do that.
Great, thank you.
Daniel, just one, I don't know, modification there. So these are factors or practices?
We call it factors. The question is, yeah, most of them I believe are practices, so we could probably replace the word factor by practices.
Yeah, it makes more sense, I think.
Well, that's why the rainfall was actually in there, because it is a factor.
So if you add rainfall, then factor would be correct.
So
or
I guess
could be practices and factors.
So we could either leave it factors and include rainfall in there. I kind of like it that way because there still could be regional conditions that are associated with reduced leaching that are not necessarily a management decision. So you might have a small diversified farm in one region with limited rainfall versus another in a very high rainfall region. You might figure out the risk of those leaching nitrate differently. So I would sort of, maybe I take back what I said before now that I see it just says factor, not practice. Maybe it makes more sense to leave factor, and I'll think about that, how to clarify that better.
No, that sounds good to me. Yeah.
Daniel, before you leave that 0.5, could you just have it as efficient irrigation, such as with drip? Because you can be efficient with sprinklers or furrow.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay, is that okay?
Yeah.
Everybody? Okay. There was a suggestion. We talked a lot about nurseries, and it is difficult because the soil is removed too. And some people, at least 1 or 2 comments said, well, the same is actually true for sod or turf grass production. I don't don't think we should create a new category and talk in detail about it. I was just wondering, should we at least mention it, that this is also the case for in other or in solar turf grass, where the topsoil, including the roots, is removed. Should we add that or not?
I think this is really complicated because it's still in the ground, but then some of the soil leaves. I don't know.
It's definitely determining R for turfgrass production will be a challenge for these growers.
Yeah.
Definitely. The question is, shall we mention it here, or are we opening a new challenge?
Well, is the challenge that they won't know how much N is in their soil? Because it's, in the organic matter, the soil too,
Yeah, so basically how to determine R. R depends, I guess, on the depth of soil, that's the depth of the layer that's removed, and the soil organic matter content. So it will be total nitrogen in the soil that contributes to R in these systems. And that's
probably is very consistent in an operation, it's one crop, grass.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like in a diversified nursery with a lot of different species.
Mm-hmm.
So they're in a better situation for reporting.
Mm-hmm. So would you suggest not to make this change here, or not to include that as another example?
I think until you might need some data, right, to show what is R in sod and turf grass production. Someone would need to take a look at that. So that's sort of a case where you could sort of guesstimate, the R to start, but I can see that there'd be some need for investigating that.
Yeah, that would be an alternative, not mention it here, but under research needs. Ruth, what is your...
I think that sounds good. And we could also mention it in question 9, where we list systems that might be good for alternative pathways. So we mentioned it in the research needs, and also, so I think here it makes more sense for this to really be about nurseries, but I think we should still mention it somewhere. And but it's a little different from nurseries because, in a nursery, the entire pot with everything inside it leaves, and it was never in the ground, versus the turf grass is, while it's being grown, there's layers of soil under it. So, so I think it should still be called out, but maybe in question 9 or the research section, or both.
Yes, so let's delete it here and come back to that later. Then here, but 10, we discuss best management practices for nurseries, and we got comments that, especially in Los Angeles County, where they often operate under power lines, these examples are not available to these growers, or they're not allowed to do any of these. So I still like our list, but I was wondering whether we should, first of all, mention among others. So that's, again, to make sure it's not an exhaustive list. And then also mention that best management practices, what are best management practices, depends on regional and on the situation of the nursery. And if you have seen these comments and what you think about these two changes to this bullet point. It's really to expand it or allow for others and not see it as an exhaustive list.
I think you address, the comment this way.
Ruth?
Could we say which best management practices are most effective and available, just to call out that they might not all be available everywhere?
Most effective and available. Does that work for everybody? Richard?
I don't know. I don't know that we know that. We know lining. I don't know. I don't think we know how to compare these, at least from what I've seen. So I don't know that I open that can of worms.
What do you mean compare?
Well, you were saying, Ruth, I thought I understood you were saying mention which of these is more effective, or is that
more effective and available in a certain situation?
Yeah.
But to come back to the point that nurses under power lines, it's not available to them as an option.
I think the sentence is correct. As what you added, I think makes sense.
Are all of those not available under power lines?
I think based on the comment we got, yes, but I think that's based on one comment.
Okay.
I think the point is we don't recommend any of those because it depends on the regional and nursery specific factors.
Yes, I think that's the goal of this edition here, and really available in the sense of, can they actually do that in their specific situation? Maybe are they allowed to do it? If not, then that's a practice that's not available. And can we improve that, Richard, or does it make sense the way we wrote it?
Well, I think I like it the way it is. The growers are going to know what's available, and they'll do what they can do in their area, and how effective it is. I guess we have to defer to others that know that industry. I don't, but they're also not. They're also a little bit apples and oranges. Like denitrification beds or something entirely different. From just lining a pond. So I think I would leave it the way it is.
With these two additions, that's okay with you, that sentence here?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Then let's see what's next. So again, let's delete that, the comment about salt turfgrass. And then there was a comment, we wrote less than 40 to 80 acres. And one comment was it was understood that we say between 40 and 80 acres. I think it's a small thing, but instead of the less than sign, it may be clearer to write less than 40 or 80 acres. So just to make sure we're not talking about between 40 and 80, and 39 is not within our range. we say less than, so a 39 would still be captured. Ruth?
I think less than 80 probably makes more sense here because 40 is also less than 80.
So
That
shall we
seems
just say
redundant.
80?
Yeah. I mean, very small to me is not 80 if we're going to use language of very small, but I think, I don't know, I do think I definitely think looking at this section, there are organic farms under 80 acres that this applies to. So I wonder if we put less than 80, we could say small instead of very small. That might be simpler.
Number of small. How does that look to everybody?
Also, we refer to question 8 and we clarify the definition there. Maybe we don't need this parenthetical comment. Like if we clarified in question 8 and then we say something different here, that might be confusing also.
Yes, we already referred to question 8. So shall we just delete the whole thing?
And you could actually take out very and small. A large number of producers exist to which the discussion on small and diversified farming system applies, and we refer to question 8. And then we're not redundant or creating 2 different categories. Could I go back, sorry, Daniel, to the one that was deleted on the sod production? That's in the
here.
Yeah, should we add like a 1 point? How far down are we going? Should we add a second, like another bullet point just to say that sod might be interesting to explore? Maybe it's after the organic one, or maybe it's at the very end of all these 1 point. Yeah, there we go. Can we, 1.7 sod, and I don't know if we have enough data to be very specific, but maybe we could just mention it there as a potential another system to look into where the soil or some of the soil is removed with the harvested product.
Yes, I can flesh that out, the sentence, before I send the document to everybody. But yes, why not have it here? So then I think that's a good suggestion. So it's fine with everybody. Richard, thanks. So then back to, we got a lot of comments about the situation in the Imperial Valley, and we were reminded by the regional water board that the way we characterize it is not accurate. I reached out to Ali, and Ali presented the following definition that I think you can better describe, Ali, but we really, some of the comments, at least in my opinion, looking from outside, seem to be really conflicting, and it is hard for me to distinguish or to determine what's actually going on. But so, Ali, this definition you proposed here, that would take care or basically include all the comments we received.
Yep. Yes, I tried to do my best last night. Hopefully it works. I think this is the whole story. There are some disagreements even in the letters, official letters of the regional board and Imperial County Farm Bureau and coalition. So if you look at their numbers and their arguments, you see obviously some conflicts. But we got the point of the regional board, we got the points of the comments of the the Farm Bureau, Imperial County, the regional board has some concerns about the number of wells are available in the region. But those numbers are coming from the Farm Bureau. I think there is disagreement, but this is the whole story. Farm Bureau says we identified 289 candidate wells initially. They spent more than $50,000 over a year to study where they are located. Then they come up a few months later, 165, again 98. And then after a few months, 24. And finally, they found only 2 suitable wells for agriculture groundwater monitoring. So the Water Control Board stand with the high number and say, you have 100 wells, but the region says, because of very scientifically, they wrote a good letter, the Farm Bureau, unsuitable, they did a study, unsuitable depth, destroyed well over time, poor spatial representation, urban influence, ownership access limitation, and not impacted by agriculture fields. And based on those studies, they finally came up with just 2 wells. So this is a disagreement at the moment. 2 entities they have, but I think we can resolve that. The regional board doesn't like exemption word in this statement. I believe they don't like to talk about no beneficial groundwater use, even in the future. Perhaps, yes, today, but we don't know about future. And also they challenge the comment we have about alternative monitoring approaches. They say, what does that mean? So I thought if we want to resolve, and also from the other side, we have a very long public comment from Imperial County Farm Bureau. I think you all have access to that. Very, very comprehensive. They explained everything. And they even mentioned, I think, very specific things, which this is a game changer, I believe, here. So as you know, I explained about that the last meeting, but we didn't have time. And it's about the very extensive tile and drainage system in Imperial Valley. So no one talked about that. The Farm Bureau just mentioned about that, even the regional board. It could, basically the region believes that extensive tile system is under protection of groundwater, and no one talks about that. If you have 50 feet spacing between the tiles, it's very short spacing. If you have very heavy soil tile, if you have those tile in depth of 5 to 6 feet, you should be able to capture a significant amount of leaching water and send it to drainage system. This comes from the science. So I passed several drainage engineering, and but the problem is we don't have any field data. So we cannot actually support how much that extensive drainage system might work. But I thought, we should be very conservative here to make sure we have the comments of the regional board and also the comments of the farming community, and go with the very mild, and put everything to the science in the future. And really it needs to do some work and research on these to bring up some clearance to the regional board and growers. So I think I propose this. So with this, I think we consider the both comment and they should be happy with this, hopefully. But
I like your solution, and especially the sentence I highlighted. So may warrant further evaluation. So we don't say it needs to be done in the Imperial Valley, but we mention it, and it may be a region that should be evaluated. And the second part is very similar to what we already had, and you can compare the two. That's why I didn't delete it above. I just highlighted it. that second part is very similar, just written a bit differently again, because it's really hard for us to say, do monitoring well exists or not, but so it's written more with more flexibility. But so I like your solution, Ali. Mike?
I try to take out the conflicts. Yeah.
Exactly, yes. And then still enough meat on the bone, I think. Mike?
Well, something similar was raised, from the regional board in San Diego County, I guess, or someone in one of the letters, and they said also that they didn't think, they have leaching to the groundwater, but they said they do have discharges to surface water, and they were asking in the letter for us to define, are we also talking about surface water discharges? Because tile drains in the Imperial would also be surface water discharges.
But
And the other part is reporting A-R, that, I mean, is it really that bad to do in Imperial? If you have the data. I guess I don't quite understand the whole, even if you don't use the groundwater now, you want growers to be efficient, right, with the nitrogen. So what's the biggest harm there of reporting A-R?
No, it's not about that. It's not about reporting. It doesn't have anything with the A-R or anything. That's about the groundwater monitoring.
Okay.
That's
so here.
groundwater monitoring.
Yeah, I understand. Okay. But yeah, that other point about I assume they're doing surface water monitoring there.
Oh yeah, already they have, yes.
Yeah.
Very extensive.
And we write the monitoring notes.
But the other good thing, we saw in the regional board, they accepted our comments about alfalfa. I think the regional board liked that comment, and most likely they will adopt it.
But so this does not imply in any way that they don't have to report A-R, right?
No.
No.
It's mostly about the groundwater issue. Yeah.
So yeah, just recommend adapted monitoring and implementation approaches. So it's a lot to read. So the suggestion here is to delete this or replace what I highlighted here with what is written in red. But probably once you get this document, have a close look at it and see whether you can agree to the new text, the way it is written.
Well, should you have some text that says if you're not monitoring the groundwater, you should be monitoring the surface water discharges?
We just write monitoring, so it basically includes both. It can include whatever is being monitored.
We didn't distinguish, yes. Monitoring.
But yeah, please, everybody, have a look at the new version and compare the two. I can't show it all on one screen, or I would have to make it much smaller. So, but I would suggest have a look at it for next time. Does that work?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, we're getting close. So we're already at additional recommendations. There were some suggestions we should really talk about the 4 R's of fertilization application, right amount, right time, right type, right placement. I had the impression, well, that's basically included when we mention best management practices, but why not include it here under what best management practices are? What I would not support, and I think some of the comments suggested that the right time, type, and placement of fertilizer application should also be part of the regulatory framework. And I don't support that. I don't know if that was the intention, but it could be understood as such. And I think the right time, the right fertilizer, the right placement are even more than the right amount, site specific and farm specific. And I don't think that should be part of the regulation or something the water board starts regulating. As a best management practice for growers, yes, but not as part of the irrigated lands regulatory program.
I agree with that, Daniel.
Thanks.
I agree as well.
Oh, then you may have seen at the end of the document under dissenting opinion is a sentence about all the extension the water boards sometimes in collaboration with the coalitions did. And Thomas requested a list of these activities, and it's a 46-page document. So the water board team, when they prepared this version they wanted to send out for comments, they suggested adding it. And I just thought it's way too much information to add 46 pages with basically listing every email they sent out. So my suggestion would be to just include it here, but not add the entire list of 40 of all these events to our report, unless we can summarize it on 2 or 3 pages. But I just had the impression 46 pages of, I don't know if you looked up that document, but I don't think it would really help much. I don't know if you had a look at it or. Otherwise, I could also discuss it with Thomas when we meet to discuss the list of additional data, because it was his suggestion, and I think it's a good overview, but I don't see it. I don't think it should be included in our report.
I think having a summary or in an appendix would be appropriate.
Yes, if we can summarize it on a few pages, then I would not object. But I just saw that document 46 pages and thought, no, we don't need to include that in our report. But I can discuss it with Thomas because he requested this list. Again, among the guidelines, just to refer to the 4 R's of nutrient management. I added that. And I think no, we have a few more.
And Daniel, before you leave, technical assistance. One of the comments was that we need technical assistance to help, especially limited resource growers, to do accurate reporting for the water board. I mean, it's not just teaching them better practices, best management practices, but the technical assistance of getting their data and get into a format that it actually can go to the coalitions is needed.
Could you technical assistance for
accurate reporting of the INMP?
And that would be for disadvantaged growers, or what would be the
I guess, limited resource growers, small growers. Or they may have language barriers.
Maybe could list language, resource, and technical literacy barriers.
Barriers in technical
Literacy.
uh, uh,
And you want to take out the language.
oh, went too far. Ah, here, yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Does that address that comment?
Yes. Also, you sort I don't know if you want to address this now, but that part about the nitrogen irrigation water, the Central Coast Regional Board had a contention with that 200-pound limit that's in there. They didn't want to limit, although it, in the current ag order, there is a 200-pound limit. So I don't know if you want to keep that, or because we have it 200 pounds or what the crop takes up. But they said, well, what if you have the case where the crop could take up more than 200 pounds? Why put a limit on it? And my feeling is, well, there's efficiency factors, and then maybe we just start with a 200-pound limit and see where it goes from there. Because it's going to take a while for growers to learn how to utilize 200 pounds of nitrogen in the irrigation water.
Yes. Yeah, I read that comment and thought we discussed it, and I'm fine with keeping it. So let's say we describe pathway 3.
But
Here.
somewhere they have supported the streamlining. Yeah, that one.
Yes, so that's the point they question, whether we should keep that cap of 200 pounds per acre a year. But then we also write potentially the cap could be increased in the future.
Yeah.
So yeah, I read the comment. I thought we discussed it, and I'm comfortable with keeping it. But if you or others think we should not include this point,
I feel comfortable keeping it because we have that 0.32 that it could be increased. The other part was they said the 3 to 5 year, reevaluation of limits has some connotations of, working towards always adjusting the ag order. I think they wanted language more that says when there's enough information available or data available to show that the limits could be changed, then they would reevaluate it and not have, like a set time scale. So I don't know where we wrote that. The 3 to 5 year reevaluation of limits. That's way up there, probably.
I think it was question 2.
So first here with the 200 pounds, is everybody comfortable keeping it despite some comment that against it? Or do you strongly feel that was a mistake to include that.
Can I just ask for some context again? I think because there'd be some wells that might have like a lot more, and this was sort of to help it potentially incentivize pump and fertilize. I think that's the name. So that farmers don't just dig a deeper well for cleaner water and instead help remediate. Is that kind of correct, Michael? Or Daniel, or anyone?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Yeah, I think we should keep this. And then, you know, the cap, the 0.32, or the cap could be increased. I think makes sense.
Well, in most cases, it's not going to be an issue because you would need, just thinking about like ET on the coast, you might have, 25 inches with 2 crops. So then you're at like 35 parts per million nitrate N when you get to the point where you're going over 200. But so for a lot of ranches, it won't even be an issue. And then their crop uptake, we've got, I think it based on crop uptake, right? So that sort of caps it too.
Yes.
Or no, total crop and removal over 1 year. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, if nobody's strongly against it, I would suggest we keep that. And then the 3 to 5 years, that's under question 2, limits and targets. I think is that the section you were talking about, Mike, that was singled out or commented on?
Yeah. I think what they were hinting at was, maybe you can say 3 to 5 years, or when there's sufficient data to, make a change, and something a little more less stringent.
It's an example, so
Yeah.
3 to 5 years, but what do others think? Shall we keep it or expand it? Richard?
Oh.
I knew you would have a comment.
I didn't even have my hand up yet. My God. Well, this is a very important issue right here. And this is probably something that needs a little bit of work too, because this is where the rubber is hitting the road. We're asking this industry to start ratcheting down. And so, in fact, we do have some comments suggesting that we provide more meat on the bones for this issue. And I'd be happy to work on this. Just give it a little bit more thought, and just see if we can kind of satisfy some of the comments that were made, and make it more provide a little bit more understanding of what we're trying to achieve, with this recommendation. It's important.
So would it be fine with you and Hannah to include that to your list of things you discuss before next meeting?
Yeah. It's okay with me.
Hannah?
Sure, we can take another stab at 2 and 7.
Yeah.
I think
I think as keep changes as minimal as possible, I think, because
Yeah.
everything is connected. So if we make major changes in one part, we may have to adjust other parts, and then it will get, or it can get messy very quickly. But
Yeah.
if we can improve the understanding or the clarity, then that's definitely worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll do it what we can.
Thank you. And I think I don't have too many other things. I think the rest is just, we were here. Let's discuss this. That's Thomas' part. Yeah, I think just a few more things. Ruth, there's still time to submit your own CV.
Oh, did I not do that? I'll do that. I will do that. Sorry about
Good.
that.
I downloaded this from the internet, but you could definitely do a better job.
I got it. I'll do that. I will do that for sure. Thank you.
I had a typo in my own name here, so I was wondering, if you had known that I can't spell my name, you probably wouldn't have agreed to name me the chair of the committee. It's too late now.
Daniel, I think there's also an error in mine too. So
Oh, yeah. Where? Oh, yeah.
well, this one's right. The one up there calls me a farm advisory. I'm a UC farm advisor, and yeah, in Monterey, Santa Cruz, San Benito counties. It should just use the same one up there.
So up there, you
Up
mean?
in the beginning in the introduction.
Aha, okay. I'll go back to that. Yeah, we have another minute. We got some suggestions about best management practices in nurseries, and I just added them here. That was a suggestion from one group. And then we already discussed that. So that was added by the water board team just to have it somewhere. But I would, first of all, it's not a dissenting opinion. So it would be a separate appendix. Either my suggestion would be add a 2-page summary, or just add the sentence that the water boards and the coalitions have done plenty of outreach and should continue doing that. Ali?
Thank you, Daniel. I think in addition of what we talked, I have 3 more takes from the summary. I think we already touched those, but the comment says they need, the community needs a stronger language on those areas. So please think about, maybe we can do something for next meeting. One is many comments, they say they need to clarify the role of A-R. The point is, they say, so A-R is a useful framework, but they're concerned it could be overinterpreted in the future. So they ask, we clarify that A-R is a screening risk indicator tool rather than a direct measurement of groundwater contamination. I think it's good to clarify that. That's a good point I found. So the other point, I think some comments, they talk about the adaptive management approaches. I think this is also a very good point. They ask us to talk a little bit more about periodic reassessment of the water quality and this program. Incorporate new science, evolving BMPs, and mechanism for future refinement. I think if we can do something there, it would be very helpful for the public. And another one, I think this is very good point. If you write manuscript, always they ask you specific for these things. So clarified scientific uncertainty and data limitation. I think we need to do that. There are a lot of uncertainty, variability, data gaps, limitation on current methods. I think the public asked us to explicitly, talk about uncertainty on those data and how it affects the program. So please think about that. If we can do some clarification or addition or some good languages, perhaps we can address the request.
Yes, I would need, or we need to read the entire document to see where we could include that or whether it makes sense. But that would be something for next week to consider. Mike?
I was wondering, what's the next steps? Do we sort of review in more detail the public comments and put edits on some, this version here for next week to discuss? I also am concerned, we could go off on a tangent if we did too many of these things.
So I will send this version here. I'm not going to accept any of the changes. I'll send this version with all the comments I made and in track changes mode to the water board team so that they can send it out by tomorrow. And so we identified a few issues and we formed groups, issues where we should look at. So I think that should be the first priority. Work with one other person and address these issues. But then if you haven't or read all the comments yet, or you have additional comments I didn't cover today, then yes, that would be something to submit to the water board team as well, so that they can incorporate it into this version here. And ideally submit everything, the team of 2, or if you have individual comments by Thursday evening, so that they can work on it on Friday and send it out no later than Tuesday noon, so that we have at least 24 hours to look at it. And yes, I totally agree. It can go, if we make too many changes, or a change in one part can result in many changes in other parts. So we definitely have to be careful what we want to change, and otherwise we will have many more meetings to incorporate all of that. So being mindful and trying not to change the main message we have is important.
And as before, we just do this on this version and everything, and then send it to the water board staff.
I think that's probably the best solution, or I'm not sure how else could we do it. Is there an easier way to do it?
I think using the same process that you have in the past is probably the most straightforward way. So as you said, just make comments in your 2-person teams and send those in, if possible, by close of business Thursday or Friday morning would be totally fine as well. And would it be possible, I know that we have to switch to public comment in just a moment, but would it be possible to do a quick recap of the 2-person teams?
Yes. So Ali and Mike will work together on some sections. Then Thomas and myself, Hannah and Richard, and Ngodu and Ruth.
Wonderful.
And did you all take notes which sections to work on, or shall I list them in an email? But if you're on top of your homework, then I don't have to do it.
I have that as well, Daniel. I can just shoot you an email and make sure that it's correct when we send out the document, if that's okay.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, any last comments or things that we should definitely do next time before we switch to public comments?
Just wanted to clarify at the next meeting, can we bring up additional comments after we read through more of the public comments?
Yes, that was the idea. So we will
Okay.
discuss the comments that were, or the changes submitted by the teams of two. But now when you read more comments by the public and you see, oh, that's something that should be answered, that should be addressed, include that too in the document. And
got it.
That
Thank
was
you.
the point where I said,
Sorry.
hopefully not too many changes because it may
Got it. Got it.
may have
Yeah.
effects on a change in one question may affect many other questions too. But definitely, if you see something and say, "Oh no, yeah, I totally agree with this comment. Let's open the discussion on that." Then let's do it.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thanks a lot for all the good suggestions, and I'll stop sharing now.
Right. So as we've done in the past, we want to set some time aside for public comment. A quick reminder to any interested individuals, please limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes. You will note you'll note that I need to unmute you from my end. If you're interested in commenting, please use the hand raise function. You can find that by clicking on the reactions tab and then select hand raised. Let me check in with staff real quickly. I don't believe we received any requests for comment in advance of the meeting. Is that accurate? Okay, confirmation there from staff. So we'll switch first to, if you recall at the start, towards the start of the meeting, Eric Warren was discussing the comments from the State Water Board on the document. Eric, just wanted to give you an opportunity to close out your comment, please.
Hi, yes, just wanted to confirm, as far as the INMP summary report, the directions to growers, I did review our worksheet instructions, and it does direct them that applied organic amendments should be reported as the amount of nitrogen available to the plant during the crop year. So just that point of clarification. I apologize, I didn't get to see that suggested language, but maybe just in the interest of time for public comment, I could review during or ahead of the next meeting and let you know if we have any concerns from the regional board's end.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks, Eric. All right, next up we have Noel Kremers.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to reiterate my appreciation for all of you and all the work that you've put into this. One point, and I appreciate Ruth's comment about, and Mike, I think you made a similar comment, like, so now are we going back and rereading or looking more closely at public comments? I just wanted to highlight in the comments that we submitted, there was some question on line 2175 about reference to a strict limit for wine grapes. And that language, I think, could be taken in different interpretations. One could be that you think that it's appropriate to have a strict limit for wine grape vineyards. The other could be that if there was a limit, that could be part of like looking at an alternative compliance pathway for wine grapes. And so we offered potential language if it was the latter, but perhaps some clarification around that that you could talk about at the next meeting would be appreciated. That was it. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thanks, Noel. Next, we have Maddie Richards.
Hi, Maddie Richards here. I'm the policy manager for California Coastkeeper Alliance. Thank you so much for all of your hard work. I will just give a quick comment. I just wanted to flag that in the written comments that we submitted, which were led by Community Water Center, we have our recommendation number 5, which relates directly to the part of the question 2 response that it looks like you guys are going to be revising. And that's on pages 11 and 12 of our written comments and relates to the 3 to 5 year review process. So I hope that you find those helpful and would ask that you take a look at them when you're doing those revisions. Thanks so much.
Great, thank you, Maddie. All right, are there any additional public comments? Again, please use the little hand raise function. Okay. Seeing none, let's go ahead and move to some closing thoughts. Perhaps we could go first to Karen Mogus at the State Water Board, and then over to you, Chair Geisler, to close us out.
I'll keep it brief. Thank you for the great dialogue today, and particularly Dr. Geisler for your excellent preparation for the discussion today. So really appreciate it and look forward to seeing you all again next week.
Great, thanks, Karen. Daniel, any closing thoughts?
Just thanks the other members of the panel for the great discussion. Thanks everybody for joining us today, and have a nice evening. See you next week. And thank the Water Board and Sam for organizing today's meeting.
All right. With that, we'll go ahead and close out. It's been mentioned a couple of times, but the next meeting is on May 27th at 3 p.m. Details for that meeting are available on the State Water Board Agricultural Expert Panel website. But with that, we'll give you a few minutes back in your evening, and hope to see you next week. Take care.